Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? This is Jeremiah. It is May, if you can believe it. The sun is shining, the birds are singing. It's time for a webinar, right? Let's do this. We're going to be showing off our amazing planting effects plugin for Revit. If you're unfamiliar with Revit or unfamiliar with land effects, planting effects a bit, this will be great. This will be a great little, knowledge of exactly what it can bring to Revit. And of course, if you're any of the people who've been using our Revit plugin, this of course is going to be fantastic for you as we show you the latest. We have been busy, busy, busy working away with this. And even at the last minute, I'll even warn you now, we were running a little over in our development schedule, but we decided to keep this webinar date. But there's a couple things that were not quite coming together. But Amanda's still going to be able to show pretty much everything we wanted to. There's just a couple things that we were hoping that would have been working that looks like they probably won't be for the webinar. Just a little bit of a warning. We are showing this is very much an in development, but what you're about to see will be released in probably no more than 3 weeks, I would say. So yeah, we're just really close. We just didn't think, oh, let's move the webinar 3 weeks. So sorry to throw in this huge disclaimer, but I just, want to say that so that if we do run into a little bug or issue, I can say, see, I warned you. But anyway, but yeah, everything you're seeing is the version that's just about ready to push. So I know everyone's been waiting to see a lot of new improvements, and you're going to see a lot of the new things and just a lot of things that have also been there for the past couple of years with this amazing plugin. This is being recorded, so it'll be up on the old website later today. And while you're watching it live with us, though, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If you click that now, you can get it situated on your screen, make it a little easier for you to type in questions. But also note, you're going to be able to see the answers that we type to other people's questions. So it makes a great little companion as you're with us on this little adventure. So that being said, all right, Amanda, let's take it away.
Sounds awesome. Hello and welcome to everybody. I know, but seeing sneak peeks is so exciting to me, I think. I think everybody's gonna really like this presentation. My name is Amanda Moran. I'll be your guide to the FX planting and uh, FX planting plugin in Revit today. So I'm a landscape architect. I came from the private sector in Canada around Toronto, and I've been working here at LandFX for 10 years now on a lot of awesome tools for landscape architects, just really keeping our workflow in mind, talking to a lot of landscape architects around the world, seeing how they do things. It's been really awesome being able to do that and kind of get out of my own bubble in the office that I was in and see a lot more perspectives on how everybody does their documentation and also how Jer puts everything together on the land effects side has been really, really cool. So I love where this Revit plugin has come from that perspective, also working with Kurt on the development side. Um, so with that, it's been a little while, a little bit since our last Revit webinar. So we wanted to treat you all with another one. We're going to be showcasing some of the changes that have been already made, but also making sure that we're covering a lot of the basics for those of you here today or watching the recording who might be curious about what this plugin does. Is it really everything everybody is talking about? Is it really that good? Is it too good to be true? The answer is no, it's not too good to be true. It really is that good. And I'm going to show you why. And then, of course, covering some of those recent improvements and that future roadmap, which is really important because we get a lot of questions on, oh, can you guys put this in? Can you put this in? Can you put this in? And the answer is usually, yeah, it's on the list and we're getting to it. And so I want to give you guys the knowledge of when those things are coming down the pipeline. And then, of course, we're going to have a lot of time for questions throughout. So first, what are the benefits of using planting FX in Revit? And I want to kind of keep this short and sweet and kind of to just one slide. Today, if you want more of an in-depth, some of our past webinars really cover who should be using it, why you should be using it, when should you even use Revit. But today, just why, if you are already choosing to use Revit, why is it beneficial for you to use Planting FX as a plugin into Revit? And it's really easy. First off, we have literally 1,200 beautiful plan view symbols ready for you to use, as opposed to the basics that come out of in your Revit install is about 3 or 4, like total between shrubs and trees, 2D symbols. So we've put our entire CAD library that we've built over the last, I think it was like 2 decades now, into Revit, along with line weight, attention to those line weights, and making sure that they are dynamically connected with a 3D symbol to Revit standards in a family. So with that, we have that extensive 3D tree and shrub billboard families. So we've tried to keep them low poly, fast performance, but also at the same time, Enscape ready, realistic render ready inside Revit if you want to. That's kind of where we're going at it. We're going at production, getting these drawings done, getting these plans on paper, and getting it out the door and approved and built. Because that's the end goal here, is not to stay with a nice model in Revit. It's to get those plans out that can be built to the way that you have designed them. And so with that, we've over again these last 2 decades have been building up that plant library. And we have 54,000 species and varieties of plants in that database. They have data and tags applied to all of them. They have color. You can see these counts as our in-house horticulturalist. Her name's Molly. She's a real person. She is going through and has been for the last, years of systematically adding more and more plants, adding more and more data, all of that. And also going out there and taking photos. So she's been adding thousands and thousands of photos onto all of those. You can see how many photos she has, 16,000 already in there, and keeps on going. We're always looking for ways to increase these stats faster, but I would say I'm pretty comfortable to say, I don't know for sure, but I'm really comfortable saying I think we have the most data of any software out there that you could use. And we are actively looking to increase that even more. Our limit is every plant with every data. That's our sky. So that we're always reaching for. We have plant placing tools. Of course, you need that in any plugin that you want to use for placing plants in Revit or any software. You want plant placing tools. But in Revit, we have those tools, and they have root balls that are very easy to use. I'll show you a bit of those as well. I do have a sneak peek on a feature coming out imminently to improve the functionality of our root balls if you've used them already. So really important, though, that Planting FX does in Revit is it automates applying those shared parameters as type parameters now. And that allows you to create pretty much instant schedules, because we even have a schedule tool that formats the schedules for you, basically making less work for you in Revit, Along with those easy group plant tags, we're bringing in all the styles already set up for you, trying to keep them in a way that makes it easily customizable for you, because we know no landscape architect office uses the same styles in their documentation. And then, but we also want to give you those tools to maintain and enforce those office standards. So like, what plant tag family is everybody using in your office? What plants are they using? What sizes are those plants set to? What's the data on those plants that they are communicating to their contractor? You get to set those up for your office in a way that then everybody just drafting plans can focus on creating good designs instead of remembering literally putting the data onto everything properly. We also have this amazing tech support that I'd say is also second to none. You call us, we answer, we have you email us, you get a response same day. You can be sure that we are going to try and answer your question accurately and get you on the right path and get you fixed up if you're having any problems. So basically what Planting FX does for Revit is we try and keep it, it's still just Revit, it's just way less complicated for landscape architects at the end of the day, so that you can actually use it. I did want to give one shout out and I'll how to find this registration. But if you are planning to go to ASLA in New Orleans this year, you have to visit us for this boot camp. We keep getting questions from people. Hey, when are you ever going to do our land effects boot camp in my area? Well, I hope you're going to the ASLA this year. And if you are, you should look into this. So it's October 10th. There is a session in the morning done by Jake. So you can also register for that one. That one's more focused on SketchUp and AutoCAD. There's no cost. There's going to be coffee and biscuits. I would recommend you bring your own laptop if you can with Revit and Planting FX installed, but we will also have your laptops and you can indicate which choice you would like, whether you're bringing your own laptop or using one of ours. You can indicate that when you register. Here's where you can go to register. Go to our website and find it. I'll show you this, but here's the URL if you're having problems with that. But I would say register as soon as you can. Would be ideal, especially so that we can get numbers and make sure that we have enough space, or if we need to somehow upgrade the space if there's quite a lot, and if that's going to be possible. Okay, on to some of the fun and interesting stuff before the live demo. New features and our future roadmap. So where are we now? We have type parameters. If you haven't seen it, I do recommend switching your drawing over into type parameters. If you open up a drawing and you get that this drawing has instance parameters in it, there is a link on that dialog that brings you to our documentation page with step-by-step instructions on how to switch that one over to type parameters. So do that as soon as you can. It's going to make things really easy for you. The only reasons that you might not want to do that is if you are in 2025 with topo solids, 2025 or 2024 with topo solids, those years of Revit, the topo solids in there, the topo solid subdivisions cannot take a type parameter at all. So if you are using our ground covers on topo solid subdivisions in 2024 or 2025 Revit, you will want to keep that file as instance parameters, unless you change those subdivisions to fully separate topo solid objects. Then you can use type parameters on them. But I'll kind of get that into what that means in 2026 in the next slide. We also added some update options. This was a request that if you were not able to get your IT to install an update right away, that it would stop bugging you about it. You can put in the update options, you can delay it if you're doing our 3D connection between CAD and Revit, but also if you're switching those instance parameters to type parameters, you also use import export to 3D connection to run that process over to type parameters. So this helped those people who had their internal origin different from their project base in Revit to be able to pick which one. And I'll show you how that works. And then obviously last year we got Revit 2025 support a little later in the year due to that .NET 8 update with Revit. That's all good. That's all cleared up. And it's been running since late last year. I definitely recommend upgrading if you haven't already. So next, 2025 and maybe a little bit into early 2026. What's the roadmap? 2026 Revit support. It's not going to be like last year. It's going to be imminent, and I'm going to show it to you today. It is working. There are a few little things that we're still tweaking up and fixing up, and that has to do with the topo solid subdivisions. So I'm not sure if you've seen all the awesome videos and like what's new in 2026 Revit little collages out there, but the big thing for landscape architects in 2026 is that topo solid subdivisions now have type parameter support. So we are upgrading our ground covers to work with that. And it actually does work, and it puts the type parameters onto the topo solid subdivisions, but there's a few other things with how some awesome changes that happen to topo solid subdivisions that we're still getting some of our other tools to work with. One of the great things with the topo solid subdivisions is that you can now set the you can set that topo solid type so that the top is flush with the full topo solid. So when you're grading the topo solid, you are grading the final grade, and you can use those subdivisions to specify all the different like subgrade spots in that topo solid. So it goes below the final grade now, which it was a really big hang up about the first version of topo solids. That's much better now. So we are integrating those. The next one, and I'm going to have a sneak peek of this for you today, but it's still got a few weeks at least of development, is concept plants and plant mixes. But we do have a prototype for all of those people who have been very patiently waiting for this and keep messaging me. That's fine. You can totally do that. It keeps us on our toes. I love it. And keeps pushing us to get it faster and faster. But we're just trying to make sure it is perfect for you, and we're doing the best we can. I'm also going to be putting out very shortly all 15 default plant tags. If you're familiar with our AutoCAD plugin, we have 15 different plant tag styles. So we're putting them all out as Revit families. And I'm also, with that push, I'm pushing out a little bit of some improvements to how those plant tag families are built. So they work a little bit better with different types of information. We do have it on the radar to have an easier update procedure so that you don't need to go to your IT every single time you want to update. So I know that that is a big one that we need to get out there, and we are actively looking at that and trying to like do all of these things at once. We're going to be upgrading the shared parameter for group label quantities to a new parameter. This has been requested by some people to not use the comments parameter. And then we're also going to look at that to see how we can make those quantities more dynamic in the tags and the schedules where we can. Oh. Shared parameter office merging. We're looking at that right now. First, we're going to make a workflow for you guys to follow step by step, and that will buy us time as we develop a tool. And then mix and match 2D symbols. Progress has definitely been made. We have a prototype that we are working on testing out. We have a library, a new library all up with all of our symbols separated, all 1,200 of them. separated into separate families that then get merged together. So that's a fun project. And then really interesting though, we are trying, despite needing to do all of these things this year, we have it in our sights to add a site amenity and hardscape manager. If you know the ref notes manager in the CAD side, that's what we're doing. We're going to start with site amenities and hardscape and see where it goes from there. We already are porting our generic library over there, as well as, doing a few tests on the best way to bring our existing library over. Finally, what's later so that you can expect, okay, what can I expect soon? What can I expect later? Plant portfolio, I would love to get it out this year, but with all the things on that list, I'm not sure. We'll see. But definitely it should be out by early 2026 at the absolute latest. Then we have a detail manager and builder tools. We have been talking to a few architecture offices, particularly multidisciplinary offices with landscape architects who already use land effects and the detail tools in the CAD side, and just really having serious talks about how this should function and what's going to be beneficial to them. And then looking at somebody in one of those conversations kind of came up, Autodesk content catalog support for the land effects library. We're just in the early stages of research. We would like to know if you use this. And right now we're just figuring out, we see that it's possible and we're trying to figure out the best way. Language strings, which means alternate language entries into things like plant schedule and all of that. And then default plant schedule settings and generally just more porting over more of the preference settings from our AutoCAD plugin. And of course, the plant data in Revit parameters. I talked on that earlier slide about how much plant data we have, and we just need to find the best way to put it into Revit parameters at the moment so that it can appear in your Revit schedule as well. But at the very least, in Revit, you can already use this plant data to find plants to add to your plant palette. And then way later, plant photos and schedules, and then linking Enscape render and to the plant info, and definitely trying to do similar things with Twinmotion D5 and Lumion support. Those are all things on our radar. Okay, so that was a lot to go through. I hope that gets you really excited for what we are going to be showing today. And let's hop in. Okay, so this is different than you usually see at the beginning of one of my Revit presentations. I've got nothing here. This is a totally blank plan. I've just got some topography, some simple buildings in here, which might be how you start a plan. If you are like in a multidisciplinary firm and your architect is saying you need to start using Revit, then you are probably going to end up with something like this. You might need to do a little bit of this grading as well, coordinate it over from Civil 3D. And you need to start putting your plants in here. Now, I'm going to show you a really fast way to do this, as well as being able to show you one of the new features of the import-export from base and internal origin. Base point and internal origin. So if I grab, let's see, I'm going to go back to my planting plan. And so you might be in a situation where you already use land effects in Civil 3D or in AutoCAD in our plugin over there. You already, maybe this project is getting ported over. Maybe you're just used to the planting tools over here. And they've said, hey, we really need your stuff in Revit for coordination, which is fair. And you want to be able to do that. You're learning today that you actually can, and it's not that hard. So how not hard is it? Let's find out. Okay, so I have all these plants in here. They all have data. We're already assigned to a land effects project. and I want to get them over to Revit. I just have to go over to my FX planting ribbon in CAD. I'm going to go to presentation, drop that down, and I'm going to go to 3D connection. And in here, I can see which project I'm on right now and what the units are and where the UCS is in this view currently in CAD, which is user coordinate system in CAD in Civil 3D or in CAD. So I'm going to export from there my trees and my shrubs. It's done. And just to confirm, here's where my UCS, World UCS XY is, my origin here in CAD on the corner of this building. So that's important to know where that is, so I pick the right spot when I go into Revit. So let's go over into Revit. And I can see in my Revit plan view model, I have an internal origin over here, and I have a project base point over here. And that can totally happen. Sometimes these are overlaid over each other, and sometimes they're in different locations. So now when I import my plants into here, I can choose either of these. So obviously, since this is right on that corner of the building, it's hard to see in this view the outline of those walls. They kind of flashed right there, but that's where the actual corner of the wall is in this plan. And that lines up with the corner of the wall in my CAD side. So I'm going to go into my Planting FX ribbon that I have installed onto Revit. And I'm going to go over to my import button over here. And this is the same as 3D connections. So you have import and export 3D connections. So I'm going to go import. And that's going to pull all of this up. Now, I happen to have in this project for this demonstration already assigned all of these plants to families. But you can see the variety of these billboard families that we have available. The really cool thing about these billboard families is that you can see the different colors between them. These different colors are actually set to different materials for different types of billboard plants. So this is a tropical green, and this one's set to a diagrammatic green, like very simple. This one's set to just a deciduous green, and this one's set to a mounding shrub green. So they are actual materials that you can change. But then when you see these different colors in the catkins and the seed pods on the grasses or in the flowers on some of these perennials and shrubs, these are actually unique materials set to a land effects material for this exact type of family, and you can set those individually. So you can change this pink to a purple and this yellow to an orange if you want to, or a white for very simple display, a bit fast performing, but very diagrammatic still. It's still accurate to the form of lots of different species. So I'm going to import. And here's where it is asking. It has recognized that the project base point and the internal origin are different. And so I can choose which one I want. So obviously we saw that the internal origin was actually the one in the right place that lined up with my CAD drawing. So I'm going to choose that one and say, okay. And it's going to go through and place all of these plants. And it's also placing them all at elevation on topo solids and onto floors as well. Some of them might hit a roof, so you might need to reassign them to the floor below if there's a really, really large roof overhang. But just know that they are going to be in the exact XY location as on the CAD side. So a little bit of cleanup, but very quickly, I have a real planting plan with all of this great graphic variety in the symbols that you would expect out of a planting plan. Planting plans, I don't know what school you guys all went to, but they just aren't as legible when they're all circles and dots. Having all of these different symbols makes our work easier to understand and easier to read and easier to plant and construct accurately. So on top of that, once we've got all of this in, you can see over here in 3D uh, what it looks like. Very clear, very fast performing. Just like that. Now, I meant to, right before I did this, I meant to look at the families to just, or the parameters to just show you that there were no parameters in this model. I totally forgot that step right before I pressed import. But trust me, there were no parameters in this model before I did this. So if I go to manage and I go to my project parameters, uh, I can see there are all of these LAFX parameters in here that were not in here before I imported them. And that's all the data that we're going to be adding and auto-filling to all of these placed families. So if I look at this family right here, and kind of go down, I can see a few instance parameters that are mostly just tied to some land effects backend system data, but then also a LAFX tag area and an LAFX tag count. And those are important just for our group labels, keeping track of each other. So those still have to be instance parameters. But if I look at the type, for this symbol type, I can see if I go down here, here under other, nice and grouped together, are all of those LAFX parameters brought in from a shared parameters file, filled out completely for you. You don't have to do any of this. It's already filled out, which is really great. And I can literally use any symbol for any species of plant and fill these out differently very easily. So that's how that is kind of working. But with all of this and land effects recognizing each of these plants, I now get a much easier interface in order to manage my plant list. So if I go back over to FX planting, I am going to, let's see, if I go back over to FX planting and I'm going to go to the plant manager, I can see all of these species that I've added, but obviously if you're just starting, maybe you're not coming from AutoCAD or Civil 3D and you're not using land effects already over there, when you first start here in Revit, you're going to start over in projects. You're going to make a new project with a new project number that's going to match the project number that you're using in your project information. Here it is. Project information, this project number, you're going to match that and add it as a project number over in that project list and then assign it to here. This plant manager is going to be empty, and that's okay because it's so easy to add the plants at this point. So I have all of them in here. I have nice visual references of what they all look like. And I can go and say new. And that's going to bring up our library with, there we go, there's that number, 54,000 total plants in here. I can search by color, I can search by filters of all those data tags, and I can also just search by plant. So you can literally add any species of plant in here. So we get a lot of questions from people trying to use planting effects in Revit for the first time, or even in CAD for the first time. Do you have a plant list for my different area than all of those planting software developers live in? And our answer is yes, we have literally every plant. So you can find the native plant for a remote area in Australia. You can find the native plant for a particular county in Texas. You can find the native plant for a place in Europe or Asia or Africa. You can find a native plant everywhere. Um, if you can't find it, and that happens, now we have 54,000 species of plants and we are trying to get every plant, but let's be honest, there's a new variety of plant being invented every year. So we have a system where you can add a plant and start using all of these tools and build your own library to be able to use in future projects and import those plants into those future projects with everything already set up already. And you can do that. And you can also benefit from all other land effects users doing the same. Because if I go down to new plant, let's find native species around Toronto that I feel is unique enough to warrant finding in here. I'll go with tulip tree. Let's see, tulip. Obviously, it's going to pull up tulips in general, but it's also going to pull up our Liriodendron tulip tree in here. And you can see that tulipifera right here, along with all of these varieties. We try and be super accurate on these varieties, right? Because here's this Emerald City tulip poplar or tulip tree. And its variety name is actually a registered trademark variety name. So this is the real variety name that somebody might order at a plant supplier. So that's important to have those real names in here that putting into your plant schedule, Liriodendron tulipifera, I cannot pronounce it today. My mouth it just won't do it. If you put in that variety name, Emerald City, that's not the real plant. And there you might get something different than you intend to get. So we try and make this extremely accurate, everything spelled correctly. And even if I go into here and look at the data, you can see all of that data about that plant, including photos, including plant colors with the flower, which is the big selling feature of this tulip tree. And you are not limited to the common name in here. Just remember, this is a database. So I have photos, some taken by Molly. So these are land effects images that you guys have free and clear rights to use on for all of your projects and all of your deliverables. But in case we don't quite have a lot of photos just yet, we also do Google or Bing searches in here that you can use at your own discretion, photos from the internet to attach to plants. But we also have descriptions of a lot of these plants, again, done by Molly, real person. And you can discuss about this. So that's how you can add plants. I'm going to close and add this to the project. And that's going to just pop it right in here. It's giving it a new code, a new plant code, because I happen to have added that to this project already. But that's all the different ways. So of course, with all of that data in there, you can filter by all of that data and find the exact right kind of plant that has very low water use or has a plant origin noted. It has to be tagged in the plant as having an origin, but of, yeah, West Tropical Africa or anywhere in North America. And keep in mind, this is a wiki database. So if you don't see the data in here, you can add it. You will have to log in, and Molly does oversee all the tags in here, so she can lock you out if you're adding things that are not quite accurate, and have a conversation about where you came to that conclusion from and kind of talk to you about it. Real person, real conversation, and you can add this in and actually use it. Okay, So I'm going to get out of here. That's a lot of talking about what this is and how awesome this database really is. I'm going to click done, and I'm just going to grab that one that I added new. You can see this one already had symbol to it. This one, when it comes in from that database, it has nothing in it. So if I edit that plant, I can do things like call this a tulip tree. I think I go usually like that. Tulip tree in my area where I used it. So this is a copy separate from that database in your project. So it's totally fine to change the name. It's totally fine to change the code. It's totally fine to add it to a subgroup so that it shows up in deciduous trees in your schedule. You can add remarks, you can add a cost. Size is a list that is curated by your office. So I'm going to put this at maybe a 1.5-inch caliper, and I'm going to say a wire basket. So all of these fields are curated by your office so that anybody doing a plan only has those to choose from. And I can change the symbol width in here. So maybe I like being very showing this a little bit bigger, and now I can choose a symbol. So here's all the symbols that we have. They have 2D and they have 3D, and again, 1200. So you're going to find something that you're going to be able to use, including palms. Right now, these are tied to the 2D symbols. You can see which ones have already been used in your project. At the moment, you cannot use the same symbol on more than one species of plant. But you can use obviously very similar symbols. But I can go down, and actually there's quite a few. So I can grab something that looks a little bit more like the form of a tulip tree. Let's see what symbol. Yeah, that will work right here. So I'm going to choose that one, deciduous 079. There it goes. It's assigned to here. I can assign a photo if I want, but I'm just going to say okay and quickly go through this. So it moved it down to deciduous trees. And when I place that, I have that family right there. It's got all of that data that I just assigned to it in that nice user interface up here. But the very awesome thing about this family in particular that might be different from all the families you've used in the past is that if I go to another Revit project with a different plant manager that's blank, I can use this import tool to just bring this tulip tree over into that project. It's going to sort itself to deciduous trees. It's going to assign itself to that symbol. It's going to set itself to all of those sizes. So you are creating a nice database that's easy to recall for all of your users in your office. So with that, I can also label this. Maybe I'll do a copy along first. So let's grab this, and we're going to copy along over here. So I can go copy along. I can grab that one, and then I'm going to grab that line and that line. Yeah, and I'm going to hit escape. And that's going to copy it along at that spacing. And I can tap the 1 key and maybe say, I actually want like more like 40 feet of spacing between them. And that will kind of do that. Clean that up a bit. Escape, escape. Clean that up a bit. And we're good. So that's all nice and spaced out. And it is also going along your topography, just like that. I did want to, this is a great time to answer a question that I saw come in on the chat. Remember to put your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of this webinar. But I saw one that asked in chat, do the plants get hosted on the surfaces automatically? And the answer is yes. This family is actually, it is hosted to that topo solid surface. So if you change the topography of the topo solid after placing the plant, it will follow those changes along with it. So that's why I was saying when you import plants from CAD, some of them, they technically drop from the top and find the first surface that they can get onto. And we do include roof surfaces because there are green roof. I think we should maybe make that an option if we include roofs or not. Some people use green roofs for that, but it's really easy to just grab that plant and then rehost, pick a new host to one of these down here that it's going to fall onto, and it will rehost itself. So that's how that works. And now one thing that also happens is that I think I've been playing around with this a little bit too much, and I might have accidentally brought in a preference set that doesn't have the root balls assigned to it already. So you can see these plants are in here and they don't have root balls at the moment, but you heard me say that there are root balls available. So what can happen, what I can do is, let's see, that was a 2-inch caliper or 1.5-inch caliper. So to do that, to get these automatically placing with root balls, I can go over, and even in this plan where I don't already have root balls, maybe you placed this before realizing root balls were a thing. I can go over into preferences and I can go to my plant sizes. So this is where you maintain that list of all of those plants. And I can go to assign which of these fields is going to dictate the root ball size and type. So I'm going to do it to the size. I'm going to find my 1.5-inch caliper and I'm going to click root ball. And then you pick a shape. So for this tree, since it's a wire basket, I'm going to go with this circle. And then I pick a width of the circle. So sure, 2 foot by 2 foot is probably accurate to what a 2-inch caliper, or sorry, 1.5-inch caliper might be. It might even be like more 36 inches, let's say that, but maybe still 24-inch height. And then I can set a backfill. So how big is going to be excavated for this plant? I can do that as well and say, okay. So that's set to that. I can say, okay. You would go through and do that for all of them. It's going to save that in, and then I just need to edit that plant and then click OK, and it should place it with the root ball. There it goes. Edit. Click OK. Bam. There they all are. So that's how easy it is to put those root balls in on new projects. So you can see that backfill in there with the actual root ball sized to 3 feet diameter. And this is a new tool that I wanted to show off, was root ball visibility. So I can go in. It's not in your toolbar just yet. This should be coming out with, I believe, the next update that will allow 2026, which is what I'm working in. It should be in there since it's all working. I can make the root balls not visible, even though they're still there. I can not show the backfill and just show the root ball itself for clash detection. So that's what you can do with that. I'm going to put them back on and say, okay. And these root balls, they look like this in 3D, but in planting plan view, they work with a dash set to the scale of your view. Let's see. So we went through root balls. So we have some more tools filled with plants. I want to show you a lot more though, and we're starting to run out of time. So let me make sure. Oh yes, I want to show you labeling. So if I go to my plan and I go to label all of these, I just grab a group label, but here's connecting line if you want. I can select the plant I want the label to attach to, and then select all the plants that I'm going to label and find out. Okay, Jared mentioned I might hit a snag. That's what's happening here in our 2026 version that I'm doing. But basically, if you ever get this message, do the same thing I'm doing. Drop down, see the details, screenshot, send it to us, and tell us what you were doing when you did that. Let me try on another because I know group label worked for me before, so I wonder if it's something I did with that exact plant. So I'm going to try on here and see if that happens again. Yeah, that worked. So we'll find out what I did with that plant that caused that to happen. This is one of the newer labels that I'm working with and kind of tweaking a bit with those um, what do you call it? The whiteouts in the background, but you get that style of label in here. And it is obviously just a regular Revit label. But then if I look over I have another plan that's already kind of done up with all these labels. Once you've started labeling things, you can run verify labels. And that will tell you everything that you might have missed. It's impossible to double label in Revit, which is awesome. That's a really good feature that isn't there in CAD, but you can still forget to label some things or accidentally miss it, or maybe label something and then add new plants and forget to relabel. Just running verify labels pretty consistently all the time in a plan is going to help you out so much in these. Um, I personally like never hand in a drawing without double checking verify labels on all of these. This is again normally way faster than what is showing here. I think probably a combination of me sharing my screen over Zoom and being in a Zoom presentation and testing out the new 2026 build is kind of slowing down this verify label part in here. So I'm just gonna cancel out of here and let you kind of trust me on that. Oh, a comment just came in that in Arizona you don't use plant labels. Well, good thing we have so many different symbols of plants then, so that you could tell them apart in the schedule. Um, okay, so that's totally. Let's just pop that down. Jer, let's see if there's any questions out there while I restart Revit.
Yeah, we did. We'd had one question just on that, on the process of exporting from CAD into Revit,
hmm
just confirming if it did support a UCS, which it does. In that dialog box, it shows if there's a UCS current, otherwise it shows world so that you can have it export using the UCS as opposed to the world, because as we all know, a lot of times that CAD origin is 220 miles away, and it certainly is not, that's not where the origin is in Revit. And so it's just going to be a lot easier to just simply set a UCS in CAD that matches the Revit origin. So absolutely, there's that one. And then we did get one other question just on the when you're showing editing that plant, it had the user fields numbered field 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's just showing those, of course, can be customized to whatever you want to call them. Those are all those six user fields that you can customize to be named however you wish. You can have just one. If you just like one field for size, you're welcome. But if you need up to six fields, you can. You can name them whatever you want.
Yep, exactly. It's just that easy. It's really nice. And this is the default of how we suggest, but we've been doing this again for 20 years. We know literally zero offices have the same way of organizing their plant schedule. There is no standard. So we had to, Jer wisely created a system that doesn't rely on a standard. It just it puts a reasonable limit on how much information you can put in there. And then the rest, you're going to be relying on that plant data that I showed you in our plant database, which again, on our roadmap, we are going to be putting in into these Revit parameters. We're just figuring out the best way to do it because we unfortunately also put into the plant data the ability for you guys to put custom data, and that's posing a problem with Revit's need for very fixed parameter names. So we're trying to figure out the best way to accommodate that. Or if we do at all, maybe we don't accommodate the custom data points through there. There was one other thing I wanted to show briefly, and this is the one that's it's definitely not quite there yet, is Concept Plant Manager. So if I open that up in this drawing, we can see all of those concept plants along with their design group palette down here. We can assign them to those Revit families as well and place it. So if I were to place this tree, fingers crossed, did do this before, no errors, so I'm pretty sure this is going to be fine. I can place a bunch of these guys, and if I label them, it just says street tree and how many there are. Of course, ground covers are mixes for the most part. People use them as mixes in our software. So those still have all of those mixes, which is great. And we're working out how those are going to be shown in the schedule as well. Sorry. And then what was I going to say? Oh yeah, we are kind of also in the background. I didn't include this in this slideshow, but we are working on getting mixes that are tied to actual seed mixes that are supplied out there. So we're creating a new database that and putting mixes into the plant manager. Instead of just in the concept plant manager, we're going to get them into ground covers, and eventually shrub areas will be in here too. But on the Revit side right now, ground covers, that when you go to select a new ground cover, it's probably going to ask you if you want a single species or if you would like a mix. And then pop up a completely different database that we are already growing with all of those mix products out there, like native California mix, native Australia grass mix, or wildflower mix, or all of that. We're starting with seeds, and then we'll probably move into plant mixes, like more regional collections of plants for different ecotypes. That's kind of where that's going. That's going to be that's why we're trying so hard to get it right before we give it out to you guys. We don't want you guys to experience any of these bugs. So we don't push out an update until it's ready. So, we're really excited about everything that we're developing here and all the things coming down the pipeline very quickly. So you're probably going to see a lot of great updates this year.
Now, we did get one other question that just popped in regarding how the ground covers the quantities are calculated. 'Cause, in CAD, of course, I know we have that user eye toggle to be able to choose between triangular or square calculations. I don't recall if we were able to come up with something like that for Revit.
I have come up with something, but that was part of one of those in the future items in the list. Here, let me show, because I also forgot to show you guys the plant schedule. So if you just run the plant schedule tool, it instantly creates 2 schedule views in your Revit project that are automatically formatted to our defaults. In the future, you get to assign your own defaults, but these are just regular Revit items. So you can go into the fields and filter and sorting and group and completely change them, but they are also already assigned to a symbol. So if you place them on a sheet, they show the symbol in there. Now, the question was about the ground cover calculations. So let's go and grab that ground cover schedule. There it is. And just pop that in here. There we go. How does it come up with the each count in here? So right now, it should be doing our natural spacing, or at least that's what it's going to be doing. So this is more set. This calculation is currently set in our back end calculations. But one thing I'm working with our development team on is switching this so that it can be a first. I believe he's already, yeah, put the spacing in as a length parameter instead of before it was a text parameter. It's now an actual length parameter so that you can do a formula on length times the spacing times the area to get to the each count. We do have a documentation page. If I go up here, no, we're just going a little over, but this is a good question. Natural spacing. You can see the formulas that we use over here at the very bottom. The possible formulas, we find natural spacing to actually be an accurate count of real world if you were to place it in an actual irregular area. It's a more realistic representation of how many plants end up there, and it's usually about 90% of triangular spacing. So that's how that's calculated. But what I want to do in the coming year is to switch that over so that that calculation is more done as a formula in the each count column, so that if you really want to change it to be the simpler triangular or rectangular spacing, we can leave that up to you, and you can easily just go into that formula section in the schedule and just change the formula there. And we'll have a documentation page on how to do that. But for the moment, this is static. It is calculated by our software.
Well, would you look at that? We've come to the end of another fabulous hour. So
Awesome.
I think if we hopefully got your guys' brains going with all the fun Revit future, feel free to always email us what you need and any issues you're having. And as we continue to obviously develop this out, it's going to has a heck of a roadmap ahead of it. That being said, have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next time.